Thomas here with Much Props. Going to give you another how-to video. Today I am once again monsterifying some random object. I have made several in the past. Most recently was the monsterized pencil. I've also done a shoe and a few other items. I thought it would be fun to make a Halloween themed one, and while yes, I have made a pumpkin head, and I recently saw SKS's, which is like ridiculously good. Definitely go check that out after you see this one. But I thought I would make something that is definitely quintessential to the Halloween season. So I was thinking about iconic things, and candy corn popped into mind. While yes, not everybody enjoys the waxy, sugary, fondant type candy, it is like iconic. So today I am going to monsterize some candy corn, definitely making it larger than like 3/4 of an inch tall. So let's make it out of foam. Let's get to building. To start off my build, I have this massive chungus of a 48mm EVA foam, and I bought it on TNT Cosplay Supply Online. I cut this big block in half, then cut half of the portion in half, and that's what I'm going to use for the body of my candy corn. If you don't have access to this type of foam, I also thought of those foam yoga blocks, which could be an easy substitute, or simply stacking up layers of 10mm foam on top of each other. With a basic triangle cut out, I'm going to glue it to another layer. I slather on some contact cement to both parts, let them set up for a few minutes, then smash them together. Once they are glued together, I'll cut out the rest of the extra bits and save them for future builds. The reason that I made it so thick was so that I could taper it off as it got towards the tip, with the bottom being a little thicker for stability. Using a box cutter extended out with caution, I carve away at the shape until I get close to that familiar candy corn shape. This will save me from having to sand a ridiculous amount later. Now with the bulk out of the way, I add one of those weird flappy sanding drums that no one really knows what to do with to my rotary tool, put on a respirator, and begin sanding away the edges closer to the final shape. When I finished that, I took it outside to my belt sander and smoothed over the surfaces with a 220 grit sandpaper belt. I then hand sanded it with a sanding sponge to get the final smoothness, although it doesn't really matter because I'm going to cover a lot of it up with foam clay anyways. Now that my shape is relatively smooth, I draw on a derpy mouth and begin carving it out. With as thick as the foam is, it can be a little tricky to remove chunks of foam, so I make multiple cuts, grab my pliers, and start pulling out foam. My teeth will cover most of the mouth, so it doesn't really matter if it's jagged or uneven because you won't see most of it. I bought these glass domed eyes on Amazon a while back, and I've used them on a bunch of builds. I glue them into place on the foam with some super glue and then move on to clay foam. This is SKS foam clay. Start by wetting the surface of your material so that the foam has something to stick to. You can add water to the clay foam as well to make it more pliable. Then it's just a matter of smearing it across the surface of my candy corn. I cover portions of the glass eye domes to give the appearance of eyelids. You can shape the foam before it sets up with basic sculpting tools or the trusty tried and true fingers. Dipping your fingers into the water will help you to smooth over the foam to the base surface. I spread the stuff all over my derpy foam triangle to get his lips, smile lines, and random wrinkles all over the place. I set aside once I am happy with the look of it and let it dry for about a day. Now that the foam is dry, I'm using a stone bit on my rotary tool to add some extra wrinkles and help refine the shapes. You could also use a wood burner or carve them in with a hobby knife very carefully. My rationale for how I made the wrinkles was to kind of look at where they neighbor other details and try and bridge the gap with the wrinkle. This would help me to add lines so that they float a little better between each part. Initially, I had thought about making fangs for him, but after my mouth shape decision, I wanted him to look a little more friendly. So instead, my teeth will be summer teeth. You know, summer here and summer there. The ones in the middle will be bigger in the middle and reduce in size as they get towards the corners of the mouth. They will also be bigger on the ends and get narrower as they go towards the gum line. After cutting them out, I take a sanding drum on my rotary tool and shape them. Now I switch over to a stone bit to smooth out all the lines from the sanding drum. To make them even more janky, I add ridges and chips all over the surfaces so it looks like this candy corn needs a dentist. In order to make them jut out at varying directions, I cut an angle on the root side of the tooth and super glue them to the gums. Two coats of Plasti-Dip. Now time for the traditional white, orange, and yellow done quickly with some spray paint. Before I did any spray paint or Plasti Dip, I did tape the eyes off to protect the glass domes. If you watched the last clip, you may have noticed I mistakenly pointed towards the yellow in the middle and the orange on the bottom. Luckily, I caught myself in the middle of spray painting. I also went ahead and hand painted on some off-white teeth onto my guy's waxy grin. Now before I pull off the tape, I wanted to sponge on just a little mix of color to highlight the edges around my eyes. I went subtle with them, and I think it helps to make the eye stand out just a little bit more. Once done, I clear coated my paint job and let it dry overnight before my final paint treatment. It wouldn't be a much props build without a couple of dirty washes to grunge up my monster. I loosely mix up some brown and black acrylic paint with a little bit of water and slather it all over the surfaces of my monster. With a wet paper towel, I knock back the high points to leave the grime in the crevices. I wipe clean the eyes and add a little extra to drip off of his mouth for some nasty drool. With this step, I am done. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Definitely a lot bigger than the original. I think it looks pretty cool. Definitely on the derpy side, which is what I was going for. And I mean, it's really not that difficult. You make the basic shape, carve out the little details, add some clay foam if you want to add the wrinkles and stuff. And buying these little eyes, I've used them all over the place and they are super handy. You can get them on Amazon for pretty cheap. But yeah, maybe you'll try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to supersize something, monsterize it, and make some creepy Halloween decoration to you just want to stay away from. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some. Yay! And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. What's that? You don't want to eat them? You don't want some candy corn? Think fast! If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.